inside the East Texas newsroom. We are live on East Texas Now this afternoon with East Texas Congressman Nathaniel Moran. Congressman Moran, thanks so much for being with us.
My pleasure, Blake. Thank you for having me this Friday afternoon.
So, Congressman, you joined us just after news broke a short time ago that Republicans, in a closed-door vote, decided that Jim Jordan is no longer the nominee for House Speaker. So tell us, where do things stand in the House right now? And if not Jim Jordan, who?
Well, things stand back at the beginning where we were several weeks ago, and that is without a speaker designate, that is without somebody that we've nominated as our speaker out of conference. And we're going to have to begin that process again. Monday night, there's a scheduled 6:30 p.m. meeting where we're going to have another candidate for him. We're going to begin that process through the weekend where candidates have to declare by noon on Sunday whether or not they're going to be in as a candidate or not, and then we'll select another candidate and move forward with a vote again on the floor, probably 9 a.m. on Tuesday. That's the expected calendar.
And Congressman, we know that you have voted every time when Jim Jordan was the nominee for Jordan, and then when Steve Scalise was the nominee, you also got behind him. Every time you've gotten behind the person who is the party's nominee. The same cannot be said for your fellow Texas Congress members. We know that Jake Ellzey, who represents a part of East Texas, Cherokee, and Anderson counties, he voted each time in these Jordan votes for a representative out of California. Have you had a chance to speak with him at all this week?
I have, and I've spoken with a number of other members of Congress on both sides of the vote. That's part of the process that we go through, is having these hard conversations and allowing each member of Congress to come to the conclusion that they deem best. And what we cannot do is we cannot vilify one another. We have to be able to say, we've got to work through this in unity and find a candidate that gets to 217. I told you weeks ago, Blake, that I would have supported Scalise on the floor when he came out of the conference as the nominee. I did the same for Jim Jordan. There's very few people that would come out of the conference that I would not support because we have to, as a conference, say we're going to support a nominee moving forward because we have to get back to business. We've got to get back to appropriations, border security. We've got Israel issues to deal with. We have so much important work to do at this time. It is unfortunate that we are at a standstill and do not have the ability to do any work on behalf of the American people.
And Congressman Moran, you mentioned Representative Steve Scalise. He was the first pick for Republicans when it comes to the House Speaker, the latest Jim Jordan. As we move forward in this process now, what names are you hearing as to who could be the party's next nominee?
Yeah, so quickly, already names are beginning to surface, and even yesterday some names were surfacing. I think you're going to see folks like Kevin Hearn. He's already announced he's getting in, and potentially Tom Emmer, and who's the whip, and potentially Jody Arrington or Mike Johnson from Louisiana. I think General Bergman from Michigan has talked about getting in, and even Austin Scott, who was a prior candidate, has talked about potentially getting in. So you may see 4 or 5 or 6 in, but by the end of the weekend, I predict that's really going to shallow down to 3 or 4 nominees. And I think that this next week will bear a victory for one of those individuals.
And Congressman, this week we got word of something kind of the ugly side of this process. Some members of the House who did not vote for Jim Jordan receiving some threats, some of them death threats. I'm curious, want to give you an opportunity to respond to what's happening there, those awful things that are being said to members of Congress.
Yeah, it's horrific. It's hateful. It's antithetical to getting to the end that we need to actually get to, and that is to pass conservative legislation. We're all on the same team. We've got real enemies in this world. Hamas at the very top of that list, but we've got the enemy of national debt. We've got the enemy of border insecurity at this point. We've got the enemy of government overspending. There is no reason for us to train our weapons on each other when there are other enemies that we need to train our political weapons towards, so that we can actually achieve the things the American people sent us there to do. All of us are not the same shade of red or the same shade of blue here in Congress. And that's the way the Founding Fathers set it up to be. So we have to be respectful. I've said for years, it's not just what we do, but it's how we do it. And in East Texas, we understand that. And I'm hopeful that no one in East Texas has followed that lead to spew such hate towards any individual that would take a vote, especially those that have a long-standing record of being a good conservative here in Congress. One vote will not turn that, and that hate is simply unacceptable.
And Congressman, you mentioned some of the issues we're facing here domestically and also internationally, mainly what's going on right now in the Middle East, the war between Israel and Hamas. I want to give you an opportunity to share your thoughts on what the president had to say last night in that address to the nation.
Well, my thoughts continue to be the same. They've been very consistent. As you know, I published an op-ed in the Dallas Morning News earlier this week, very much in favor of steady and strong support for Israel to make sure that we stand with our ally in this time of need. It is important that our foes fear us and that our allies respect us and that they know we will be at their side when the moment is there, the moment of truth. And this is the moment of truth for Israel. And so we need to be with them until the very end. And we cannot show weakness. Appeasement will beget more opposition from evil in this world, more push from evil in this world. We have to stand with strength.
And Congressman, I want to end where we started here, the speaker conversation about what's going on in the House right now. Looking to next week, the way I understand it right now, restarting on Monday. Is that what you're hearing?
That's what we're told, is that the speaker designate, who has complete control of the schedule at this point, has said we are not going to do anything until 6:30 p.m. Eastern time Monday night. That'll be our candidate forum. Noon on Sunday is the deadline for those individuals to declare that they're in. And then the expectation is Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. we will have our first vote on whoever the nominee is coming out of Monday night's meetings.
All right, East Texas Congressman Nathaniel Moran joining us once again. He joins us all the time, it seems, these days. There's a lot to talk about in Washington. Congressman, thanks for making the time to speak with us this afternoon.
My pleasure, Blake. Talk to you guys soon.